Welcome in, fans, to another episode of the Two Line Pass podcast Fanley Cup series. I'm Randon. Here with me, as always, is Dustin, and tonight we are excited to welcome our next guest. He is a producer for the KSL Sports Zone. He's a sports journalist. He has the podcast Bean on the Scene. We are pleased to have Alma Bean joining the show. Alma, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us tonight.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you taking out time in your day to have me come along.
We are so excited to get to know you more. And I know you're very active on the socials on X, formerly known as Twitter. But for those of our fans who may not be familiar with your work, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
So I moved out here to Utah. It'll be 4 years in July in the pursuit of a new career path. I have a degree in music, was trying to pursue a career in music education, and it just didn't pan out the way that I thought it would. So I applied to the University of Utah for their communications department. And after meeting Bill Riley and him giving me all the tools that I thought I would ever need, I've now gotten down this line. I started with an unpaid internship with the Hive Sports, started covering the Utah Jazz on my own time, been to every single home game since then in 2021. And just giving my own perspective, and started growing my Twitter following, my X following. And then after about 2 years of doing that, I caught the eye of one of the KSL Sports videographers, and he told me that there was a college internship that they were bringing back, which they just brought back the semester before, which, funny enough, their intern beforehand was Jaquindon Jackson, who is now in the NFL, which is great. So, having to follow that up, it was a little intimidating, but I did about 4 months there, and after finishing up my internship and making a lot of great connections with people across the board, whether it was in podcasting, radio, television, or even on the news side of things, made a lot of great connections, and it ended up leading me to a position with KSL Sports Zone, their radio division, thanks to Jake Hatch just sending me a DM on X asking me if I'd be interested in a position with the company, and not even really specifying what that position was. So I just, once he gave me the details of said position, I was like, hey, I hope there's a lot of on-the-job training, because I've never done any of this before. So, but thankfully I've been there ever since then. So it's been since roughly about June, July of 2024. I've done RSL games, Utah Royals, Salt Lake Bees, Utah Hockey Club, Utah Jazz. Just been a wide variety of things that I've been able to cover, and some of these sports are sports that I'd never paid attention to until I had this job. So it's been really good for me to actually expand my horizons, but along with that, it's opened my eyes to different fan bases, which the hockey club is definitely one of them. And I decided that I wanted to get season tickets. Even before I had the job, I already had my deposit in, and realized that I could provide a different angle for the hockey club, for their fans, because there's a lot of people that are brand new to the sport. So, simplifying things, or maybe even making a connection to, oh, what does this penalty mean in relation to, if for the fans that are more familiar with the Utah Jazz, is this similar to that? Like embellishment, I had to teach a few people about that one. It's like, it's flopping. But then expanding that into my own podcast, my own short series, Being on the Scene. And I realized that since I wasn't going to be able to attend every single hockey club game due to work, it's like, you know what? I want to get people in the stands. I want to grow the fandom where I can do my part. So I just started doing little giveaways with super simple questions like, who has the most points scored in a single game for the Utah Hockey Club? Leave the comment and you'll be entered. We'll pick it by 2 p.m. And now you're getting people that may not be able to afford to go to these games, being able to get that experience. And if they decide that they like it, maybe they buy some merch, or maybe they invest in SEG Plus, tune into the radio on KSL Sports Zone and listen to Mike Falta's play-by-play and Adrian Denny's pregame and postgame. Or maybe they want to buy the $10 tickets from Smith's. Just, it's growing this culture, and I think that the NHL may have recognized what was here, but didn't realize how much of an impact that this team would have on the state. So being able to have that type of contribution, it's really exciting. It's really cool. And then even having that connection myself, because I had never watched a hockey game until the final Coyotes game, because during my internship, we sent our sports anchors and our videographers, producers down there to get the fans' reactions for that final game. But that reconnected me with my grandfather, who had passed away many years ago. He used to be an equipment manager for the Salt Lake Golden Eagles, which I have his photo right back here with me with when I got to meet Theo Fleury, and he recognized my grandfather and went ahead and said one of the greatest Golden Eagles. So, getting to have those connections where I wouldn't have even thought that would have been something, it's great, but, I'm just trying to make my way up the ladder, and if that means being a radio producer is step one, then I will be at step one as long as I need to make my way up the chain.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned the Golden Eagles. We've had a lot of guests talk about that, and it's a deep hockey tradition in the state of Utah, albeit the minor leagues between the Golden Eagles and the Utah Grizzlies. But now having the NHL here in Utah just brings it to that next level, and the fans have just come out and supported much more than I had ever imagined that it would be. I knew it was going to sell out because it was new, but the passion that they've shown has just been incredible. Now, you've covered a lot of sports, so did you follow the NHL like at all before the Utah Hockey Club arrives in Utah, or is that just kind of you're jumping in with the team?
So I can tell you, I pretty much just jumped in. Back when I was still teaching, I did have a coworker. Funny enough, his name is Clayton Keller, and he grew up in Minnesota. And so once he would joke around, he was like, "Oh, I'm in the NHL, I'm in the NHL." I had no idea what he meant. But then once I saw that final game for the Coyotes, it like clicked for me. I was like, "Oh, Clayton Keller is like an actual player." But outside of that, the only players I knew of were Alex Ovechkin and Wayne Gretzky. Didn't really know anyone else unless it was my mom mentioning a player that had come over to her house when she was in like middle school because of my grandfather. So like Stu Grimson and Paul Ranheim were some names that she had thrown around, but I had never seen them play or watched highlights of them. So I was pretty much going into this blind.
Well,
Brandon, I know that you are related to Penguins fans. I want you to note that he just said Alex Ovechkin and Wayne Gretzky and not Sidney Crosby. So chalk one up for that debate later on.
Everybody knows that the Great Eight is far superior to, nobody even remembers who Sidney Crosby is anymore. So silly Penguins fans. But yeah, we do have a rich family tradition of hockey. And so it's pretty fantastic to hear that you have a deep connection to that for the equipment manager side, which is one of those kind of a thankless job. They're so super important, but I don't think people truly understand how important the equipment manager is. So good on your grandpa for doing that. But let's move on to now that Utah is here. It's in the state. We've got everything except for the team name. So I do want to start with that because it is topical today. They last night, at least at the time of this recording, not at the time of publishing this episode, but the YouTube channel changes to Utah Mammoth. Alma, were you on the Mammoth bandwagon, or what team name did you want? And are you happy, sad, surprised about this new development?
So what's funny is that before I started working for KSL Sports Zone, I had been pulled aside by Andrea Urban of Fox 13 to interview me because I had just finished my internship. I had just gone into the Delta Center to take a look at the seats before I selected my season ticket spot. And that's when naming started coming out. And she was like, "Hey, what are you a big fan of?" And I am on record since May of 2024 of being a pro Mammoth guy. So seeing that there's more people trending towards Mammoth, you're starting to see more traction online with Mammoth. And then even when they were down to the final three, seeing more people supporting that name, it kind of made me feel a little bit better, kind of puff out my chest. But it was like, I've been a day one, not like the people that are like, "Oh, I've been a Wasatch guy since day one." It's like, well, you didn't even know that was an option until they were down to the bottom three or top three. It's great seeing that people are recognizing that it is the better name of the three, in my opinion, at least. But I really liked the different designs that people had come up with, even with some of the other options. There were some really great ones for Outlaws. There were really great ones for Mammoth. I did like some of the altering ones that people did to try and keep Utah Hockey Club. But overall, I personally have been a Mammoth fan through and through. Now I'm just really curious if you'll add that like brown or copper color now that that is within that conversation? Or are you going to stick to the black, white, and mountain blue and just kind of have it be more of like a silhouette type of design? Because if I'm not mistaken, they said during the voting process that the logos that were shown were not final. So I'm excited to just see it all come to fruition. But when you have a leak like that and you saw what transpired afterwards, start leaning into, was it planned or was it accidental?
So you just mentioned the Monahan saying that they're still reviewing all three options, and if I remember the whole situation correctly, like they had a vote, and like if you went to games after, like they gave us three names and then changed one of them and did it again and said, oh yeah, if you're coming to tonight's game, there's going to be these iPads and you can vote for them. And the vote, I thought, was supposed to choose the team name, and here we are many months later, and they're still reviewing all three. Do you think that vote meant anything in the grand scheme of things, or was this always just going to be like the team is going to do what the team wants to do, whether it's the front office or Ryan Smith, since he owns the team, just they're going to do whatever they want to do, and they wanted to give us the semblance of choice?
So before I even get into that, I just want to talk about the initial rebrand for the Utah Jazz. So with Ryan Smith, I mean, he's done a lot of amazing things for the fan bases, whether it's the Jazz or the hockey club. And when he did his initial rebrand, he consulted people that are big in the fashion industry. And at that time, it was neon colors. So he wanted something that would pop, something that would be fashionable, something that would sell. But based off of what I had heard, he did not consult individuals on how that color would look on the court, which is why it wasn't well received. But he did consult people. So now going to the actual vote for the Utah naming, I believe that the fans' vote does have an influence. I don't think it's as much as people think it does, but maybe they've already done different renderings for each individual name. They have one that they personally prefer, but then they wanted to put it out for the fans, get their reception, and see if maybe they're all on the same page. And if not, maybe take some elements from a name that the fans do like, because it was asking whether or not you liked the logos or if you preferred the name, separated the two. So they might already have one that they already prefer, but if they saw that maybe for the Outlaws they preferred the design better, maybe they can take that design or, elements of said design and apply it to whatever name they already had preferred. That's what I think it does. Like, I think the vote overall, it just makes the fans feel like they're more involved. And I mean, as a fan personally, like, it's nice knowing that my voice is heard, whether it's fully or a small portion. It's nice knowing that the organization is listening through and through. But overall, I think the voting was more of to give SEG a better idea of what the fans are wanting, and then they will go from there to actually get the name and design it.
We were talking about like favorite names and favorite logos and favorite players. That's what I want to jump into. I ask everybody that we've interviewed so far, if you had to choose, and I'm going to make a guess, judging by the posters that are behind you, you have a favorite Jazz player.
Believe it or not, that's not my favorite Jazz player. These were just posters that were given out at the end of games.
Okay, I was going to wager a guess that you were going to say Ollie Mata, so I'll leave it to you now. If you had to choose a favorite Utah Hockey Club player, who is it and why? And also, why is it Nick Schmaltz?
So if I had to pick a favorite player, funny enough, number one would be Mikhail Sergachev, because my friend John, who is a diehard Lightning fan, the moment that trade was made, he just started gushing about how much Utah should love Sergachev and how he's going to miss him, and that made him want to pay attention to Utah Hockey Club games. So I started looking into him more, and I've always been a big defense guy for any sport that I've been a part of or watched. So, having a defenseman being a marquee trade for the Utah Hockey Club, I was super excited about him coming over, and immediately I was like, I have to get his sweater the moment that happens. And this was the very first one that I purchased when they had that season ticket holder event where I stood outside at 6 a.m. and didn't get in until 8, and it was super hectic. But if I had to pick like a very close second, like, again, defense. So Karel Vejmelka is right behind Mikhail Sergachev for me. I mean, I don't believe that a lot of fans will give goaltenders credit, whether it's in hockey or soccer, just because, they're the last line of defense. And if the puck or the ball goes past them, like, who else are you really going to blame? But when they have really great games, you're going to give them praise. But even in the games where, say Veggie allowed 3 or 4 goals to go by him, no matter what, these guys, they weren't pointing fingers or they weren't saying he was the blame. It was always helmet taps, get him next time. And it just was always super supportive. And being a new hockey fan too, like, I didn't realize that was essentially tradition. And I've seen some highlights where I guess you can call them lowlights, where goaltenders are just absolutely frustrated or their own teammates are turning against their goaltenders. Watching Veggie out there all year, you're just seeing these guys fully supportive of him, and it's very well deserving. And with guys like Connor Ingram, who's gone through what he's been through this season and seasons prior, just the full support that these guys have for their goaltenders, it's absolutely phenomenal. So I have to be fans of these type of guys if your entire team is backing you up.
I feel a bit ashamed. I was looking at the Lauri Markkanen posters behind you and reading into, okay, his favorite player is going to be Olli Mata because they're Finnish players. And here you are sitting with a Mikhail Sergachev jersey right in my face. I can't see the forest for the trees.
It makes you feel better. We do have an Olli Mata bracelet to go along with it. We have fandom through and through. So I'll give you a little bit of credit there.
I'm taking it. I'm taking that out.
Because again, defenseman.
Defense. You mentioned Karel Vejmelka. I'm going to probably put you a bit on a spot here because we like to play GM. How did you feel about that contract extension?
So with the contract extension, I was a little surprised with the length. I wasn't surprised by the value. I personally would have thought that maybe it was going to be like 3-4 years. Just because you already have guys like Stauber and Villalta that are already waiting in the wings to make their way up. And they've already kind of proven themselves with Tucson that they're going to do great. And they just got a couple more fundamental things that they need to work out and get to the speed of NHL play. But I was just surprised lengthwise. But now knowing that Ingram is, if I'm not mistaken, going into a contract year next year, maybe that's a little foretelling as far as what the organization is looking for, because even though you're going to fall in love with this team year one, you're going to wish that every single player on this team stays. If you're a brand new fan, ultimately it's a business and you have to make those sort of decisions. Seeing the length and the value that Vejmelka got, well-deserved based off of how he played. I'm just surprised by the length just because I just assume that it's a business through and through and you're not going to give a guy at his age, 5-year contract? So it was very surprising to me, but overall, I'm happy with the transaction.
I'll tell you, if he continues to perform at least consistency, that year 4, he is going to be trade bait for sure. If somebody can swoop him up for pennies on the dollar compared to how he's played, we'll see what Father Time does. But keeping the GM hat on, this podcast is one of the big supporters of taking a swing to try to bring in Mitch Marner. I know other people out there are targeting guys like a Sam Bennett from Florida entering their free agency. Do you have any free agents you would like the team to target? Anyone you've got your eye on? Or are there any spicy trades? I've floated potentially making a trade for Jack Eichel out of Vegas. He's going into his last year, but we'll keep the GM hat on. And what do you think the team needs to do in the offseason to take that next step?
So I believe that if they want to have a successful offseason, there needs to be a minimum 1 trade, 1 young gun, 1 vet. So the way that I would look at that, get a guy like Matthew Nyes, even though he's a restricted free agent. I know everyone's going to be looking at Mitch Marner, but are you willing to, if you're willing to pay that type of money for Marner, why not take a guy that's maybe a singular step behind him on the exact same team, and Toronto's going to have to figure out who they're going to pay. And if you hit that RFA for him, is Toronto willing to match it and keep Mitch Marner? That's where my mind is for that. I also really like Brock Faber. I think that he would be a really nice addition. As far as trades, I don't know detail-wise where I would want to go. But I mean, Utah has the assets, so might as well try and bring in a vet of some kind, just because, you're losing Bortuzzo most likely with retirement, and then all of your other vets are essentially on 1-year contracts. So maybe trade for a guy that you can have a little confidence in, and giving an extension, maybe like an extra year or two for him. As far as what player that is, I haven't thought that far out, but overall, Utah has a lot to work with, so might as well start swinging and, give the fans something super exciting to look forward to. Bill Armstrong, he's not afraid to make those big swings, so I'm just looking forward to the offseason and seeing what he's really going to cook up.
It should be an exciting free agency with all that cap space. We'll see if they decide to use it this year or make some short-term moves and swing for the fences in 2 years. But moving on to your experience, especially with the KSL Sports Network. So does that, being a part of the media and being in that room and in that kind of role, has that changed the way that you experience this season? Were you kind of fan first, media member second, or was there a balancing act at all? Or tell us a little bit about what it's like to be on that media side of things as well.
So again, I invested into this team as a fan first because I was not a part of the media when I did put in my initial deposit for season tickets, and I just wanted to learn the sport. So as soon as that transaction happened, I downloaded NHL 24 onto my Xbox and I played it hours on end to try and learn every rule, learn about the roster, who are the players I should be keeping an eye out for. Because once I stated that I was going to cover the team and do live tweeting, I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. I didn't want to just be like, oh, so-and-so scored. But going in as a fan first, I think it was a lot of fun just, embracing what the fandom is. But once the media side stuff started coming in, breaking down the interviews and kind of learning their cadences with speaking, you kind of get a better understanding of who was excited to play here, who was a little more timid, and the people that just didn't really have an opinion and just wanted to play. So after getting that background, I was like, okay, maybe these are the certain players that I should be looking out for, which me initially, when I heard Dylan Gunther, how he does his interviews, it did not sound like he was interested at all. But then as the year went on, I just learned that's how he speaks. So seeing how he performed against Chicago in that inaugural game, absolutely phenomenal. I became a fan of him instantly. Didn't realize that he was that large of an impact, but I probably should have known that with the contract extension that he had going into the season. But even being out in the concourse, I was out there the entire day for the initial press conference that started at 11 a.m. I didn't even get home till about 1 in the morning because I was just trying to fully embrace myself as a fan. Now, being on the media side, when I do tweet out, I, for the most part, am trying to be as unbiased as possible. But when Utah scores, it comes out in all caps. I can't help it. And funny enough, my very first opportunity to even be on press row, I had to get confirmation through my boss, Lloyd Cole, to, get me that access, and speaking with Jeffrey Sanders, who is the head of communications for the Utah Hockey Club. And they told me that one of the concerns is that if I'm there, they don't want a fan reporting or a fan taking advantage of press row. And I was like, I promise I will be as unbiased as possible. Like, just tell me my do's and don'ts, and I will make sure that happens. And I just was astounded, like, the amount of information that I was given, as far as entering the arena and what the protocol was, and, when I am allowed to take photos or videos, or what I'm not allowed to take photos and videos for. So it kind of gave me a different insight there. But at the same time, a little small part of me as a fan, I'm like, holy cow, I'm in the locker room where, oh my gosh, Andre Tierney is like 5 feet away from me. But at the same time, I have to be straight-faced. And thankfully, Jeffrey, he kind of calmed my nerves down a little bit because I was in a full suit, tie, shine shoes and everything. But he said that he didn't realize that we were doing lookalike contests with the coach. So I told him I kept the sideburns so then you could tell us apart. But that eventually led to me going out to Tampa, covering Mikhail Sergachev's homecoming as a fan. But I wrote a story and put it out on KSLSports.com and, got to speak with a lot of fans that way. And even though I had like my little media cap on at that game, it's a part of me being a fan, being so accepted as a Utah fan, because every Tampa Bay Lightning fan came up to me and they're like, what got you into the sport? Who's your favorite player? I see you're wearing Mikhail Sergachev. Do you know what he did before he went to Utah? Everybody just wanted to know how that fandom started. And nobody was pointing fingers. Nobody was hazing, especially after that game, 8-0. Like, you really can't do anything else. The fans yelled touchdown when it was 7-0. So it was rough. But overall, I still get my small spurts of being a fan. Even when I was on press row, I had to like hold in my cheers for that singular goal that went in. And, you know, when the guys came out from the tunnel for their initial warm-ups, I had one singular clap, and I was like, wait, I'm on press row, can't clap. So overall, like, it's been a huge difference between the two, but it's nice knowing that as a fan, I know what other fans are wanting to see and what they're wanting to hear, and that is exactly what I'm searching for as a medium.
Now, with so many, like you've obviously traveled with a team, you've been to a lot of games. Whether it's a member of like being the media and experiencing a new team and a new job, that type of stuff, or whether it's as a fan in the crowd watching something, do you have like a standalone favorite moment of the season?
If I had to pick a favorite moment, I think the moment that solidified my fandom was the Melka's career high against the Hurricanes. Because I was just sitting there, I was like, man, these defensemen are not giving Veggie any help. Like, it was just shot after shot after shot. But after about shot 30, the fans are starting to get more into it. The fans are understanding, like, oh, there's a lot of shots on goal, and he's not letting these guys get anything in. So you're starting to get the fans more into it. You're getting the Veggie chants. And once he got that first star and you saw him with that cheer, you know, the iconic singular skate, fist up in the air, helmet barely hanging onto his forehead. But then having him go to that bench interview with Sarah Merrifield and him essentially being choked up, just hearing the fans chanting his name, because at this time he's the backup goalie. So, you know, having your brand new fan base chanting for your backup and setting a career high, them recognizing how amazing that was. And that was one of the very first like memorabilia pieces I purchased, was a standalone ticket that commemorates his achievement. And I was in shock. That's where I immediately was like, that's my goalie. And anyone that says otherwise, go watch that game. It was phenomenal. But a very close second for me was, I'm sure most people would say this too, but the inaugural game, because I didn't have any clue how the sport worked, and getting that immediate win, that immediate gratification after a full day's worth of events to come to the conclusion of Utah Hockey Club won their very first game, and there's no other event that can match it. And the only thing that could is an actual playoff game, in my opinion. And I'm looking forward to when that day comes.
We project next year as playoffs or bust, but I think that Carolina-Utah game and Veggie's moment, I think all but one guest has said that is at least one of their favorite moments. I think, how can you not? Like, it was just such an iconic game. It was his coming out party, and then to see him have the success he had on the back half of the season with the workload that he had, truly cemented himself. And of course, you've got your Veggie heads in the crowd throwing broccoli on the ice, like, phenomenal. And what a great moment for him. I want to ask, keep it, because that first game was iconic. The towels, like the giveaways that they did, I mean, just really making it a fan experience. Now, I think you are the type of fan, so you were a heavy sports fan, right? And then hockey fan is kind of something you're new at, and you're the target market that the Utah Hockey Club is going after, right? They're expecting at least 50% of the fans to be exactly in your shoes. So from your experience in the Delta Center, how have you been impressed with the way the organization has put on the show of a hockey game, and how that's evolved from the very first game of the season to the last game of the season? Is there anything you are hoping that they do as a fan for kind of that, aside from the renovations, but the product and the show, the production value that they're putting on for the fans in that arena?
So going into the season, one of the biggest things that they brought up was how many people are going to go from Jazz season ticket holders to Utah Hockey Club season ticket holders, who are going to be both. But again, I was still a fan overall, so I was going to Jazz games as a Jazz season ticket holder. And I think it was something like 5% were doing both. And I was a part of that 5%. So going from jazz games to hockey club games, I was able to recognize how big that rink is. It's crazy how much larger it is. And even seeing some of the newer renderings for the renovations, it really puts it in perspective that a basketball court is really small. But as far as what has come of the actual production value of the games themselves, I like to say that they've recognized what the fans are wanting and what they don't want. Because I'm sure that every single fan is just saddened by not listening to the dance version of Sound of Silence every time an opponent scores. So now that that song has gone away, you're not having people complain about it as much. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think anyone's really complaining about the opposing team's goal song, or like they kind of alternated whether or not they played one or not. They went through multiple DJs. They've gone through multiple like in-arena hosts as well to try and get a better feel. Like there was a gentleman I think I've only saw at like 1 or 2 games, and he kind of reminded me of like a Jersey Shore type of vibe. And I haven't seen him ever since he said phrasal. But the fact that the actual organization is recognizing how much the fans want to be involved and then actually applying what they're wanting into it, I think is a really great reception. I think that what should change is really just depending on what type of quality they're looking at getting into for their pucks next season. Because I collected all game day pucks for this season just because it's inaugural season. I wanted to collect them all. Thankfully, I was able to get all 41. But now next year, are you wanting to have the same quality puck? Are you going to have it pressed and textured like you did this year? Or are you going to do like, say, Tampa Bay Lightning? You can see the one right behind me for the Utah Hockey Club back there. That is all just printed on. And that puck was $10 compared to the $25 that they charge in the Delta Center for their pucks. So are you going to have that sort of situation? Are mystery pucks going to become more of a frequent thing, or is it going to be more scarce? Are they going to stick to the generic ones that you see behind me? Or are you going to do like with other teams where when they have like a theme night, like say military appreciation, they'll have a camo printed hockey club branded puck and just have the players sign those, or like Pride Night or something, you'll have Pride pucks. I'm just curious if they will implement that more into their mystery pucks. And then as far as merchandise goes, with the actual like shirts and other merch that you'd find in there, is there going to be more access online for some of their items? Because there are a lot of items that are store exclusives, but they are not listed as such. And, you know, like pins and stuff, like there's stuff that's a little more scarce. And, you know, they don't really have updates as far as when they're going to get them back. But with it being the inaugural season, them anticipating a new name, I can understand them not quite knowing if they're going to receive any restock. But overall, I would like the communication in the team store to be a little bit better, just so that everybody's experience buying new merchandise is a pleasant one, rather than, well, I didn't know that this item was over here. If I would have known, I would have purchased it, but now they've been sold out for 3 weeks.
I think that's one of the things that they're trying to navigate, especially with like Ryan Smith owning the clothing brand and things. And it's like there's the UHCteamstore.com, and then there's like the NHLshop.com, and they kind of have separate, some overlap of items, but separate. But I think one of the great things about having Ryan Smith, especially with his connection to Qualtrics, where he made his money, is that feedback loop of, because I've been to multiple games, and every single time I've received an email that's asking for my feedback. Even though my email has sent back multiple feedback, they're still asking. It doesn't matter. It was, you know, how was this game? How was this game? How was this game? And that type of thing. Like, you know, we talk about the team voting and as a fan feeling heard. I feel like that has been one of the best things of that feedback, and I'm hoping that Ryan Smith and his team are taking it seems like they are taking that and really making those improvements. And we'll see. That's a great point about the pucks too. Maybe they'll do the pressed pucks for the Mammoth logo now, so you can have 41 Utah Hockey Club pucks and 41 Mammoth pucks, and then they'll go to the press. That'll be interesting to see how that all works.
Yeah, I'm really scared that I did the 41 pucks for year one, that I'm now going to be roped into doing it until I am no longer within reach of the Delta Center. But overall, like it was a really rough experience trying to get those pucks. And I mean, you guys have probably seen the responses online. I mean, they had to start doing quantity control over these pucks. Now they were strictly being sold behind the counter just because so many people were grabbing them by the armfuls and selling them online for 10 times the price. I mean, until the hockey club decided to resell the pucks online, there was one puck for the inaugural game that I had seen listed for like $500. I was like, I know you paid $25. You don't need to make it $500. You're ruining it for everyone else. Just sell the puck. If you want to make extra money, sell it for $50. And I think that that's still a reasonable price, even though it's still price gouging in my opinion. But like, if you want to make extra money, don't make it so absurd that you're pricing yourself out of that market. And I had interacted with so many fans where they're like, oh, I wish I could have gotten one, but I got there an hour before the game started and they were already sold out. And that was before the quantity control kicked in. So I'm really glad that the hockey club was able to put those pucks back out there on the internet and, you know, make those scalpers look really stupid. So I'm just glad that I was able to have the opportunity that I did to be able to go to as many games as possible. And for the games I wasn't able to attend, I was able to have people that were willing to purchase those pucks for me after I Venmo'd them. So then I could complete the collection. And now I just need to find a space to hang it all up because it is a lot heavier than I anticipated. And being in an apartment and this being the shared wall with the next unit, I don't think they would appreciate that hanging on there and potentially falling.
No, not at all. Are you going to get the white stand? I've seen that, the little stand. I like your individual cases that you've got. I wonder if they're going to sell that stand with all 41 included. They may have it on the shop.
So they had one up for the auction, not for the actual game pucks, but they had warm-up pucks for all 41 games. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that sold for about $8,000. So people want it. I wouldn't be surprised if they did sell some sort of 41 puck or like inaugural season display for all 41 games with the game pucks, make it a little bit cheaper. Knowing how much money I put into it, again, $25 per puck, 41 pucks. And then the actual display itself, I paid roughly about $80 after shipping for the display. So putting that all together, you're looking at just under $1,000. So I'm sure you slap on the official inaugural season logo on the display, maybe paint it all white so then the pucks pop out from it. Probably sell it for $1,200, and I'm sure people would eat that up because I know that they quickly sold out of the original 6 display, and that was what, $250. So if they're willing to do that, I'm sure that people would be easily willing to pay for the full 41 puck display.
Who knew pucks would be so popular? I didn't. I did not see that coming, but they do love their pucks. I got a couple. I got the first game puck and a couple on the last night, so I took that and I ran with it.
Yeah, I have way more pucks than I anticipated. I'm sure my bank is loving the activity that I'm giving them. I'm sure Ryan Smith is loving the funding I am putting into said team. But overall, like, I just think it's really cool, especially year one. Like, I probably won't be as invested in the mystery pucks unless they do like themed displays for them. But overall, I just thought it was cool to have all the inaugural season pucks and document what that would be like, because I'm sure that there were a decent amount of people that if they had known day one that this was something that was going to happen, they probably would have invested as well. But I know multiple people that didn't recognize it until about 20 home games in, like, oh man, I wish I would have done this. But now they're buying them secondhand. I'm sure that there are many people that wish that they had done that full display rather than paying for the pucks outright at one time. But overall, I just think it's like a cool little achievement that I can say for myself, and whether it's something I end up selling down the line or something I show the kids down the line as well, it's just something that can't really be replaced. So I just think it's a really cool piece of history to have.
The inaugural season only happens once, they say. Dustin, I'm going to see, do you have any other questions before I want to ask just a generic final thoughts before we get into the rapid fire, but Dustin, do you have any specific questions you want to ask?
No, the only thing I was going to say is that whether it's hockey pucks or like Pokemon cards, like resellers and people that just buy up everything to resell it, they're like a scourge on society right now, so that I know in 2028 for my presidential run, would you support capital punishment for people for resellers?
I think that if you catch them trying to sell it for more than 2 times its original value, they should sell it for face value and then community service.
Perfect. All right. No capital punishment, community service. I can accept that bargain.
Granted, the hours of community service, I'll leave that up to you how much that is. But
lifetime. A life of community service.
Alma the Merciful here, and then now Dustin
and he's
comes in
condemned
with
them to a life of servitude.
Alma, before we get to the rapid fire, I want to ask, just in a general sense, just kind of the whole season put into perspective. Do you have any just overall thoughts of what you've seen about the game, the players, the fans, the market, everything like that, but before we move to the final segment?
On X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, there's just a bunch of fans that are still trying to bring up the debate on whether or not players want to be here. And I know it's a topic that a lot of people don't like to address, but when you speak with these guys, you see how involved they are with the community, whether they're going out to City Creek every other day to, buy new clothes or just take a look around, venturing to new cities and just asking the locals, what are your favorite things here? They have been met with nothing but kindness and support, and it has made it such an easier transition for them to want to stick around here. A lot of these guys have even talked about the moment we moved here, we were met with free food and cul-de-sac parties and such just because we're here. And, going from a market where maybe they were supported behind closed doors, but out here, you're starting to see people walking in the streets wearing sweaters when it's not even game day. And, these guys are now starting to be recognized just out in public. So giving them that sort of comfort here, it's kind of given a whole new meaning, not only for me as a fan, knowing that we are impacting the players themselves, but knowing that this is a safe space. This is a place that, maybe they want to stay here over the summer and get to know their new home a little bit better. Or maybe they go back home and tell their buddies and their family, like, hey, this is a really nice spot. You should come check it out next season. It brings a whole new meaning to fandom, in my opinion. And it's something that I really want to look forward to next season. I want to see, if there are any new guys that come into Utah, what their initial thoughts are coming here, and the players that are here from this season. What are their big spots that they're going to show these new guys? Or what are some things they're going to tell them, like, hey, you got to try this while you're out there, or hey, don't go to this area type of thing. So, I'm really excited to see where that goes. But overall, the season was a success. You can even look at the point standings. You're seeing the progress that Bill Armstrong has talked about that the fans should be anticipating. But overall, even though they didn't make the playoffs, even though they were in the conversation pretty much all the way until the end, this season was a success, even without the wins and losses, just because that these guys are wanting to play here and do what's right by the fan base.
Absolutely. It's been an incredible season, incredible players, and I think there's that overwhelming sense that this is a place that people will come to play. And obviously there's the narrative around the NBA players, but I do not think that truly exists, or if it did, completely dispelled by the reactions of the players. So one thing that is keeping the players here in Utah is the 2 Line Pass Fanley Cup Rapid Fire segment. It is the hottest thing on the internet today, and I'm going to allow Dustin to introduce the segment and get us started for this incredible feature.
Okay, so rapid fire. Just 5 quick questions, very easy questions. We just want your quick, top of the head, first thing that comes to your mind answer. Just bang, bang, boom. Are you ready for the 2 Line Pass rapid fire segment?
I'm scared, but yes.
Okay, and away we go. Top of their game, burger or pizza?
Pizza.
All things considered, University of Utah or BYU?
Utah.
Big spoon or little spoon?
Big spoon.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
How much sawdust could they put in Rice Krispie treats before people start to notice?
Oh, man, a lot.
Victory! We got it.
Perfect.
That was it. That was the rapid. It's so rapid fire. It's like pulling off a Band-Aid.
It's over before you even know it.
I didn't realize I was going to talk about a Rice Krispie treat and sawdust in the same sentence.
When he came up with that question, I was like, it's beautiful. We can't even put on the air what his original question that he wanted to ask some people were. It's one of those after dark type episodes. But the sawdust and Rice Krispie treats, I thought that one was clever.
Yeah, there's enough marshmallow in there. So, like,
right?
You could probably throw enough in there until somebody notices a speck or gets a splinter in their tongue. I think you're good.
I've had a mouthful of sawdust for unrelated reasons, and it's not the worst thing in the world, you know? So, like, I think I could handle a sawdust Rice Krispie treat. They're so good anyway. Like, the sawdust have to be masked by the deliciousness that is a Rice Krispie treat. That's the last question. Sixth question. We've never done this before. Sixth question. What's your favorite snack food?
My favorite snack food? I'd probably say... probably the baked barbecue Lay's.
I love baked Lay's. I have not had the privilege of trying the barbecue.
Literally have them right here on my desk.
Oh, yeah. I think baked Lay's is the king of the potato chip. When they did it, I was like, move over, Pringles. This is just the better version of you.
I just wish they weren't so expensive. That's my only problem. It's like I have to savor these for a while, but then next thing you know, I'm at the bottom of the bag. I'm like, gotta go back.
If you're both big into the chip game, so Frito, you know, they have those spirals. I think they were like honey barbecue. They've come out with a new of that spiral, and it's queso flavored. Those are very, very good. Those are fire. That is what the man at the gas station told me. He said, "You will F with these. They're fire," and they certainly were. I did F with them, and they were fire.
See, the last time I had a queso-flavored chip, it was the Takis, because with my day job, we sell them, and absolutely despise them. They are awful. I do not like them. So I'm like, I really hope that they do not taste like those. I hope that they are better than that.
The Twisted Fritos, those are good. They're
all right, I will have to get them, and then I will report back to you whether or not you led me astray or...
If you get them and you don't like them, I will Venmo you the cost of the chips.
All right, I will be looking forward to my
Dustin 2-line pass guarantee, satisfaction guaranteed, or your money back.
As long as it's not a Charles Barkley guarantee, I think we'll be okay.
I'm going to eat the chip and say that it's bad, and you're going to give me money.
To our, yeah.
I'm a liar by trade, so I'm going to just say that I hated it and get my money back and get some free spirals. Are they better than the chili cheese ones? I love the chili cheese Fritos.
They're up there. They might be better than the chili cheese.
I hope so, because I'm not the biggest fan of the chili cheese ones. So
fair enough. Fritos
they're right up there with the honey barbecue ones.
But I do like
them. They're duking it out with the honey barbecue.
Well, this is the hard-hitting stuff that you get on the Two Line Pass podcast. You came here for the hockey, and you stayed for the chips. That's what we like to do. Alma, thank you so much for joining us. It was fantastic to talk to you. Any closing thoughts you want to throw out there before we leave? Any shout-outs you want to give to you? Shout out your podcast. Let them know where they can find you, where they can follow you before we get out of here.
So overall, just, being in the industry, I got to thank the people that I work for, like Jake Hatch, Lloyd Cole, and then my coworker, the man that gives me all the information that I could ever want to know, Cole Bagley. He's a phenomenal individual. If you don't follow him or read his work, follow his work, by all means, Cole Bagley with KSL Sports. As far as myself, I have a podcast that I do once a week called Bean on the Scene. You can find that on YouTube and Spotify. I also do short segments that I try to do at least once a week. That I do on Twitter and TikTok at Alma Bean 20. And then, it's just been a phenomenal season, and the fans themselves, especially guys like Broccoli Brandon, or as Nick Olchek likes to say, Broccoli Brandon, just, they've made this ride a lot more enjoyable than I had already anticipated. I wanted to get to know the fans as best as possible, but they've just made it so much better. I've made some lifelong friends through this fandom. I mean, we're already trying to plan out cookouts and, times out at the movie theaters, going out to escape rooms and stuff. So the fact that I'm able to do that when, being involved with the Jazz fandom, meeting a handful of people and maybe making a handful of friends there, where I can say that the people that I would meet outside of the team store every home game, I could consider every single one of them one of my friends. So it's been a phenomenal season, and I can't thank them more.
some great people to be around, and you are a fantastic person to be around, a crucial part of the Utah Hockey Club community. We really appreciate you coming on, and I hope everybody enjoyed getting to know Alma a little bit more. Go follow him on Twitter, follow him on TikTok. Make sure you're checking into being on this scene, and Alma, we really appreciate it. From Dustin and from myself, thanks so much for listening to the Fanley Cup series. We've got some more episodes coming up throughout the postseason and into the offseason. Still want to talk to you. If we haven't reached out to you, if you haven't reached out to us, now's the time to do it before you miss this chance. Thanks so much for listening, guys. You have yourself a great night.